Well, I suppose it was in these very matters alone that he had irrepressible and unbridled desires. His other lusts were constrained by some reason or moderation. To how many free-born women, to how many mothers of families do you think that man threatened violence in that foul and impure mission? Is there a single town in which he set foot where he did not leave greater traces of his violations and atrocities than he did of his arrival? Well, I shall pass over everything that can be denied. Even those things which are most certain and most clear, I shall leave alone. I shall just choose one of that man's dreadful acts, so that I can get on more easily to Sicily at some point, which has imposed this burden and business upon me. There is a town on the Hellespont called Lampsacus, judges, amongst the first in the province of Asia for fame and nobility. And the Lampsacinians themselves are not only most especially full of courtesy to all Roman citizens, but are also above all extremely calm and peaceful, almost surpassing the other Greeks in their inclination to the greatest leisure rather than any violence or unrest. It happened when that man had earnestly requested from Gnaeus Dolabella that he should send him to King Nicomedes and King Sadala, and when he urgently demanded this journey for himself, more for his own gain than for any situation advantageous to the Republic, that on that journey he came to Lampsacus with great misfortune and almost ruin for the city. That man is led to a man called Yarnitor as his guest, and his companions are billeted with others as guests. As is that man's custom, and as his disgraceful lusts were encouraging him to do, he immediately gives a task to his companions, the most worthless and shameless men, to look and investigate if there's any virgin or worthy woman as a reason for him to linger longer in Lampsacus. One companion of his was called Rubrius, a man made for that man's lusts, who with amazing cunning wherever he came used to investigate all these things. He brings him this news that there's a man called Philodamus, easily the most eminent of the Lampsacinians, in birth, honour, wealth, reputation. His daughter, who lived with her father because she did not have a husband, is a woman of extraordinary beauty, yet she is thought to have the greatest chastity and modesty. The man, when he heard this, burned with desire in such a way for something he'd not only never seen himself, but not even heard from somebody who had seen it himself, that he said he wanted to go to Philodamus immediately. His host, Yarnitor, who suspected nothing, fearing he must have done him some offence, began to attempt to keep the man there with all his might. That man, who could not find a reason for leaving his host, began to pave the way by another reasoning for the violation. He says that Rubrius, his darling, his own helper, in all matters of this kind, and his accomplice, is not lodging comfortably enough. He demands to be taken to Philodamus. But when this was reported to Philodamus, even though he was unaware of how much evil was at that time being set up for him and his children, still came to him. He showed him that this was not his duty, that he, when it was his turn to receive guests, was then accustomed to receive praetors and consuls, however, and not the attendants or ambassadors. That man, who was seized with a singular desire, ignored all his demands and arguments. He ordered that Rubrius should be taken by force to the house of a man who had no duty to receive him. This man, Philodamus, after he could not maintain his right, worked to retain his courtesy and affability. The man, who had always been thought very hospitable and friendly towards our people, did not want to seem to have been unwilling to receive Rubrius into his house. He prepares a feast, sumptuously, luxuriously, as he was among the richest of his group of friends. He asks Rubrius to invite whomever he would like to, and leave space only for himself if that seems acceptable. He even sends out his own son, a very agreeable young man, out to one of his friends, his relatives, for dinner.